Armstrong, who do we have?
We have Matt in D.C.
Matt in D.C., always great to hear from you, Matt. Thanks for your time on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I got to go with Cinderella in the tournament. I mean, that Virginia Tech game was amazing. I couldn't believe, they pulled that out the end, and the madness has already begun. Too bad for old Syracuse couldn't, take down Duke, but we know that the ACC refs are going to ensure that Coach K wins this tournament. Same with Kansas. But anyway, back to the whole problem with Texas, and I think we can all agree as Baylor fans, we've seen it. The 5 stars and the recruits don't really matter. What matters is your fit to your scheme. From football to basketball, we've never really gotten a lot of 5 stars. We'll get occasionally, but we recruit the scheme first, and that wins games. I think recruiting to that, what fits your culture and what you need, that's when that'll continue to win games. Until Texas figures that out, like, the stars don't matter. I mean, they can in the end. Like, Alabama gets the guys that fit in. They're all 5 stars, but until Texas figures out that stop worrying about the recruiting rankings and start getting guys, get the 3 stars and 4 stars, that's what matters. And I don't know if y'all ever listened to Orange Blood's podcast, but I listened to one recently. They talked about the whole podcast is basically about Jeff Ketchum going off on how did Baylor pass us in football and basketball, recruiting guys that nobody wanted. And I was like, that's the problem right there. You think just because someone's a 3-star, nobody wants them when they have 30 offers just from, just not Texas. And I'm saying once they get past their mindset of only 5 stars matter, maybe then you'll start winning games. But until they start recruiting the scheme, they're going to keep being, mediocre. I'll take your thoughts on that.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate the call. Somebody did send me a link. In fact, a couple of people did. I listened to clips of it on and off. Not a lot of it because that's also there's been a lot of venom from that site about many things Baylor and almost like they're annoying. But they admit it. That's good. And they need to. Baylor's better than them across the board in the 3 major sports. Now, not in baseball, and we don't know that yet. Texas was beaten last night, but they're the number 1 team in the country and really good. But, yeah, there's a lot of – and when he took the job, Chris Beard, and they started getting these transfers, you saw the hype begin again. It's just like in football. And I agree. You
said it. They had a top 5 preseason ranking, because of
Jeff Goodman had them like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And so there's no question when it comes to stars, when it comes to rating services, when it comes to hype, the logo, it's at the top. It's among the top 3 to 4 most overhyped, overmodulated. It's got this great tradition. But what have you done for me lately?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a part of the problem there. As much as they've identified it, and that for a long time was the issue, was not maybe looking in the mirror and realizing that was as much of a problem as anything else. And it wasn't, Charlie Strong, or it wasn't this guy or that guy, one individual or one position player, away from turning it all around. No, it's more of a systemic kind of a cultural thing. And I don't think they've rooted that out quite yet. I think they're potentially sitting there with a group of coaches that can do that. But yeah, it's been disappointing. The women are playing better, but they're not, they didn't win the Big 12 this year. And yet Kim Mulkey is no longer in the conference. And you would think that would be the year for Vic Schaefer to jump up and maybe win it. And then football this year being so wide open and to have such a disappointing season. And men's basketball to have that hype, and then now you're one and done in the Big 12 tournament. Didn't even really sniff the race for the title there at the end. So yeah, I mean there's a lot of talent, but like you said, and like a lot of people have said, there's got to be that chemistry factor as well. It's not as simple as just going and signing stars and then you throw them out there and they win games automatically. We've seen that with pro sports teams who try to put together their big threes or their all-star rosters, and then they don't win a Super Bowl or they don't win the NBA Finals, and it's a massive disappointment because there's got to be more to it than just the players and the names, on a roster. So if they can ever find that, they'd be pretty incredible, but maybe an unstoppable juggernaut in just about everything. But that is a piece that's missing right now for some reason.
One of the other pieces that's missing is what do you do once they get on campus? If they are 4 and 5 stars, and most of the teams, Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, have been winning with those type of players. But there's always those Army ants that become better than even the highest rated players. Yeah, there's elite players that those schools get as well, and what Oklahoma gets and what Texas has gotten. What Baylor has done, really for now over a decade, is they've been able to take whatever the stars are, whatever the ratings are, whoever might be recruiting somebody, and find a way once they get them on campus to make them bigger, better, faster, stronger, and I mean by coaching their asses off. And with also how they do their strength and conditioning and what they do with their mind. And now Kim Mulkey was getting elite players, no question. But you still had others that were becoming better when they got here. And then she didn't win all of them. She didn't win. She won a lot, but she did win the 3 national titles. The first one was, there was some stars on that one. The football team's been rebuilt 3 times in different ways, different styles. And you're not going to see them. What was it? KD Cannon, Jarrett Stidham, maybe a handful of guys who have been the elite 5-star type talent, if even that. There's just not a lot of it. They're not going to ever get a lot of it. That's why it's amazing what they've done for the last 10, 12 years or so. And what Scott Drew did, he went after those big names. Isaiah Austin, Perry Jones III, and those guys were big-time players. Kendall Brown and Jeremy Sohan, big-time players. But it's a different culture and a fit now of who you have. And if you can get a Jeremy Sohan and Kendall Brown, if you can get them every year, you want them. Now the question is, do they fit with what you do as well? All right, 254-339-1122 on the text line from Steve. Future Big 12 Cincinnati won their opening AAC game. Actually a good win for them. The program's in the midst of a major rebuild, not something Bearcat fans are accustomed to with Huggins and Cronin. They were both successful. Wes Miller will get them back to the expectations of what is Cincinnati basketball. And then he added this: I'll take Dave Aranda and Luke Fickell recruits against Texas every single time. At least you've seen what they've done with Dave Aranda last year and Luke Fickell, what he's been building with the Bearcats as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that most teams would probably take the recruits that Texas gets. And, then you take the coaching that they get after that, is the way that I would put that. You definitely still probably take their recruits. They are, always going to be higher rated, pretty much, that's a foregone conclusion every single year. But, yeah, the part after that, once they get on campus, that's where the missing link has been. And then probably some in the evaluations as well. I don't think there's any doubt that some recruiting websites give bumps to certain schools, and there's a trend, it felt like for quite a long time there where there'd be a kid who's a low 3-star committed to Tech or to Baylor or to TCU, and all of a sudden they get this offer, and it's, man, we better review his film, and all of a sudden, boom, he's a low 4-star suddenly. And then, and I saw that happen so many times. I just wish I would have tracked it and kept a log of it. So if somebody said, prove it, I could just go, bam. But it's true if you followed recruiting closely enough, as I have since 2000, that I saw it happen so many times. And that probably didn't help expectations either, is having maybe an overinflated sense of who some of these guys are, because they probably got hyped up a little bit too much. But no, I mean, the missing piece, we've talked enough about Texas and their struggles. I know everybody enjoys it for the most part, but they got a lot of talent. It's just the missing piece of the culture aspect. And if they can ever unlock that, and that's the big question, if they can ever truly unlock that across the board, to where there's not that sense of entitlement or we're Texas and you're not, so bowl over while we walk out onto the court. If they can ever eliminate that entirely, then they're going to be the school that they think that they are and that they want to be in terms of winning. And they're still winning plenty in other sports, just those major ones that have been a bit more elusive here lately. But the talent is there. It's just the cultural part of it that is not quite on the level of a Baylor, for example, right now.
There has been something missing. There really has. And sometimes you wish you could just sit there and go, that's it. And sometimes it's not that easy. When we come back, more here in the 3 o'clock hour, Max